So that aside, let's go ahead and get into new hardware. I'm excited about this one. Video cards, and basically from videocards.com, we have full-spec PCIe Gen5 12 plus 4 pin MSI power supplies for next gen GPUs have been pictured. Folks over at WCCF Tech have exclusive photos of the next gen power supplies designed by MSI. Asus Loki will not be the only power supply equipped with full spec PCIe Gen5 connector. MSI is also working on the next gen supplies equipped with the full 12 plus 4 pin connector for upcoming GPUs. Just recently, we covered a topic of Asus Thor PCUs, which are yet to come out this month. Thor PSUs will not offer a full 12 plus 4 pin PCIe Gen 5 spec connector for GPUs, but instead a 12 pin cable borrowed from NVIDIA microfit design that can only support up to 500 watts of power. The Loki series, on the other hand, will be fully compatible with 600 watt specs, which requires 4 additional pins. The PCI SIG specs define a new standard called 12 VHPWR, which defines a 12-pin power cable with an additional 4 signal paths responsible for negotiating power requirements and ensuring that the graphics card was properly connected to the supply. We have thus far neither seen any photos of the connector nor the full spec cable. However, thanks to WCCF Tech, that is no longer the case. So as you can see here, there's some pictures of the MSI Meg, and you have the single PCI 5.0, and then you have 4 traditional PCI powers here within here. They can either do, CPU or PCIe. So really, this design's a little concerning for a few reasons. One is that if you are doing traditional graphics card power, you could I guess technically you could get 4 on here. 2 of these, like if you're doing a high-end motherboard, 2 of these are going to get taken up by the CPU. For mining, clearly, like this is going to be a problem too. Like one of these would really only give you up to 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2. So 6 to 8 pin PCIe powers, and then you'd have your single PCIe 5.0. Definitely wouldn't be great for mining, but we'll also talk a little bit more about this and why some of these later gen GPUs are not looking great for big mining rigs anyways. But these Meg and MPG power supplies will be offered with either a 12 pin to dual 8 pin adapter cable or a full spec 12 plus 4 pin cable with 4 signal lanes attached to the power supply directly. The difference here should be that the adapter cable will be limited to 300 watts, which is 2 by 150. Whereas 12 plus 4 will be up to 600 watts. In any case, those power supplies will support practically any GPU configuration, given that the user can still attach another 2 8-pin cables. Once again, like I guess it could be, it's really 4 8-pin cables, but also my question is if you utilize this PCI, what kind of demands does that put on the power supply, which is 600 watts? And we'll kind of talk about that too, because it's a little crazy here. Because MSI is preparing at least 5 PCIe Gen 5 compatible power supplies offering up to 1300 watts of power for Meg series and up to 1000 watts for MPG. But if you have a single PCIe 5 rail coming off that can go up to 600 watts and you get a 750 watt power supply, you are going to be cutting that thing so close as soon as you try to add on if you had like a top end GPU, that it's going to be crazy. But even at 1000 watts, it seems like it's going to be crazy, right? So what is this kind of telling us about the next gen of GPUs? It's telling us that the top end from NVIDIA could take up to 600 watts. More than likely though, because Asus is a third-party manufacturer, and they only go up to the 500 watts, I would assume the TDP of like a 4090 will be about 500 watts or below, right? 450, 500 watts, somewhere around there. It's going to be very difficult to build mining rigs for these things too, because if you do use splitters, you're not going to have like the full negotiation that needs to be done through that 4 pin, which is the 4 signal lanes. And there could be potential power issues with basically using splitters from the traditional by 8 pins, which is what my concern would be as a whole. In addition to that, I think that like you're going to have, you know, a huge increase in power consumption on all of these GPUs just from that 12 pin. And if you want to utilize traditional power, you know, or like the power supply, not traditional power, if you want to use the new standard, it's going to be hard pressed to find power supplies that have multiple outputs of the new standard because of the specifications of it taking up to 600 watts. You don't want two on there, you know, that'll take up to 1200 watts on a 1300 watt power supply. This is just going to be insane. Also, at what point do we just get to, you know, desktop PCs requiring 220 power, right? Like if you're in the States at 120 and you can get up to like 1600 watts, which is okay, but you're also pushing that panel pretty dang hard. You know, it's nuts. What else does this tell us? This also tells us that it's probably less likely that even the top end of the NVIDIA GPUs on as far as 4000 series will have SLI. There was no, you know, even at the top end here, the 1300 watts just coming with a single Gen 5 connector. It doesn't look like that it might, well, it looks like essentially they may be doing away with SLI all the way as a whole, even at the top end. We know for the RTX 3000 series, they had already removed SLI on everything below the 3090, which was a pretty huge disappointment. You would expect the 3080 at least to support it, or the 3080 Ti. We knew the 70 series had been cut out from the 2000 series. But as far as that goes, the 70 series probably this time around would have been a pretty good bang for your buck early on, as far as from the processing power for traditional gaming, etc., traditional applications on the desktop PC, if SLI was allowed on the 3070 or even the 3080, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Lots of kind of assumptions we can make surrounding, of course, the new launch of GPUs according to this. Will AMD use the new standard? I haven't seen any confirmations on that. So if you guys have, definitely let me know. I'd be curious as far as that goes. Let me see if I can get this to, oh, I see why. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.